Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing for audio stream. Test 1, 2, 3 for the League of Women Voters of the Grand Traverse area. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Test gooseneck mic for the streaming computer for the League of Women Voters of the Grand Traverse area.
Need to.
Hello, and welcome to the Candidate Forum sponsored by the League of Women Voters of the Grand Traverse Area and hosted by the Traverse Area District Library with technology and media support from Traverse Area Community Media. This candidate forum is for TCAP School Board for the general election on the 5th of November. My name is Christina Schlitt, president of the Traverse Area League. The League of Women Voters is a national nonpartisan organization. That means the League never endorses nor opposes candidates or political parties, but does work to obtain and share information with the public about candidates and their views. The League promotes informed and active participation of all citizens in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues through education and advocacy, and we advocate only when we have a well-researched and developed position. Membership is open to anyone 16 years or older. This forum today is being shown on Channel 189 Spectrum Cable in Northwest Lower Michigan and on TACM Community Media at www.tacm.tv/community. And now, and of course, here with you today, the League of Women Voters never endorses nor opposes candidates' responses to questions or their opening and closing statements. We do encourage all voters to fact-check information. We do have handouts on the table on the way in, and there's some mis and disinformation sources for you to use. So we invite you to take those home with you. Our moderator today is a 40-year member of the Grand Traverse Area League, Jean Howard, and has been active community member who has served on many boards, including 8 years on the TCAP's Board of Education. Jean?
Thank you, Christina, and welcome to the three candidates that we have here with us this evening. They are running for 3 open positions on the Traverse City Area Board of Education: Josie Ballinger, Scott Newman Bale, and Tylen Schmidt. There are 3 other candidates listed on your ballots. If you've noticed that, you've already gotten your ballots, but they were unable to be with us this evening. So I will quickly review the guidelines that were sent to the candidates before tonight's forum. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for an opening statement, 1 minute to answer each question, 2 minutes for a closing statement. Candidates are reminded to restrict their answers to their position on the question asked, not to make any personal remarks about any other candidate. We need to tell our national people this. Sorry, that just slipped out. During the opening and closing statements, the timekeepers will alert the candidate with a visual sign when you have reached 1 minute. Can you hold that up for them, please? Followed by a 30-second and 50-second signs and a stop sign to indicate that time is up. During the question and answer period, the candidates will see the 30 and 50-second times. You are allowed to finish a sentence. However, if you do not stop talking, I will gently remind you that your time is up. And you're always welcome to ask me to repeat a question if needed. And the audience can submit questions during the forum using the 3x5 cards like this that the league members have available. All you have to do is raise your hand if you'd like a card. Any questions not asked this evening due to time constraints, we will make sure we share them with the candidates after the forum. Members of the league do screen the questions for clarity, general interest, relevance, and propriety before the cards are put up here for me to use. Alphabetical order is also determining who will speak first tonight. The questions will then be rotated so that each candidate has an opportunity to give the first response to a question. The closing statements will be given in reverse order from the opening statements. And I have a grid here to keep track of all this. However, if I make a mistake, please call me on it, one of the candidates, if I all of a sudden forget somebody. You know, I'm getting older. Anyway, please do. So let's begin with our opening statements, please. Josie?
The advantage of having the last name at the beginning of the alphabet. So hi, I'm Josie Ballinger, and I'm running for re-election to the TCAPS Board of Education. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event, and to all of you in the audience, live streamed or here in person. Thank you for caring enough about TCAPS to attend. Since being elected in 2020, I'm proud of my record and also the Board of Education at large for several achievements, including developing a strategic plan with the input of students, staff, parents, and the broader community that has resulted in measurable goals. Secondly, we have significantly enhanced security across our district. Third, we have also increased mental health supports to students. Fourth, we have tightened policies such as our cell phone use and anti-bullying to enhance student learning and engagement. And finally, we have made great strides in rebuilding trust with our community and staff. Professionally, I have served the nation for 22 years at a federal agency that provides Congress with nonpartisan research-based information. As a project manager, I work as a part of a team to evaluate the effectiveness and efficiency of federal programs, making recommendations for improvement that also result in taxpayer savings. Our work is methodical, fact-based, and results in published reports with tangible results. I am also a TCAPS parent of 2 students in middle school and high school, and they are here in attendance. And finally, I'd like to just say, prior to COVID and my election in 2020, I volunteered in the classroom for 6 years. And that experience opened my eyes to the challenges that students and teachers face on a daily basis, academically and behaviorally. Thank you again.
Thank you, Josie. Scott?
Yeah, my name is Scott Newman-Bale. Put it back a bit. And thank you first to the League of Women Voters for hosting a candidate forum. I think it's critical that we have a way to engage and kind of speak about why the school board is so important, and often it does get overlooked, especially being on the nonpartisan part of the ballot. So thank you for everyone for coming and watching. When I was first elected 4 years ago to the board, things weren't as bad as they had in some other districts, but they weren't great. We had lawsuits against the district, some sizable ones. We had a lot of community discontent. We'd just gone through a couple of superintendents, and really there was coming into it then without any knowledge of what was on the other side of the board was quite daunting. What I found was a really good school system. Luckily, we had already had our superintendent, who is phenomenal, and had started some of the work. So we were able to kind of piece together. We managed to get we got the lawsuits taken care of. We got the strategic planning done, which we hadn't had a strategic plan for years. No one really knows how long. It's been a very long time. So we did a lot of the groundwork, and the unfortunate part back then was because there was so much uproar, we had so much engagement from the community that it was kind of cool to see that. I felt that we had a lot of energy. Now, because things hopefully, you guys can say, but hopefully things have been going relatively well, people seem to trust and just let us go. We need to figure out a way to merge the energy of when there was discontent to take us to a new level, and that's what we're trying to do. So why I decided to run for another 4 years was first I have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. 18-year-old just graduated, 16-year-old in a couple of years. But then I had a 4-month-old now, surprise, as well. So I am running because I have a kid in the system and will for a while.
Thank you, Scott. Ty?
Well, I am the only non-incumbent running here, and I'm not running because I think the school board is doing a bad job. I am running because I believe in kids, and I was at a climate and culture meeting last year, and an assistant principal said during this team meeting, he asked, "Do you believe in kids?" Meaning, if you believe in kids, public education and TCAPS is a place for you. And this is something I've thought about a lot. I was previously the district wellness coordinator for the district for 2.5 years, and I really enjoyed my time working with educators and learning about the complexity that is public education in the state of Michigan. And I came to an aha moment that I want to continue to serve kids. Since moving here in 2006 with my wife, I've served kids in many ways, whether through Norte or as a big brother with the Safer Kids, Safer Schools Task Force. And governing is something new to me. I've never run for an elected position before, but I feel like I'm drawn to serve in a different way from a governance level. And I'm running because I love TCAPS. I also have a senior. This will be my last year as a TCAPS parent, but I'm a proud TCAPS parent. And I'm running because I think we can become better, better through student achievement equity, sustainable health and well-being connection, better community engagement, and a little bit more accountability with that strategic plan. And I believe TCAPS is a better district when all of our kids have the same opportunities to succeed, no matter their circumstances, no matter how much money their parents make, no matter where they live, no matter if they have a disability, no matter if English is their second language. So that's important to me, that we become a little bit more equitable so that all of our kids can succeed.
Thank you. Our first question will go with Scott. So, what has the district put in place to make our schools safe, and what more will you do?
Yeah, so we have, first, obviously, the school safety situation has changed. I say it's changed dramatically, but I don't know how many wake-up calls we really need to say it's changed dramatically. But the one, obviously, this recently hit closer to home, so I think we all felt it a little bit more. So there was, we were already working, and thanks to the existing board, and I will give props to Josie as well for being ahead of the game on safety. But we have done a study we had a study done which was funded through the state, and we did get very, very strong comments from that was, we are doing a good job, but we did have a few things we needed to do. So recently we passed the bond, and in our last bond as well, we took a lot of dollars to make a lot of safety improvements. But that's the physical stuff. We need to really put a lot more focus on the mental health side, because I think we all know that is a lot of where this starts from.
Thank you. Ty, the same question.
Yeah, TCAP's doing a phenomenal job fortifying physical securities. And when I was on the Safer Kids Task Force, that was a task force formed after Uvalde, we read a book called The Violence Project. And that Violence Project talked about that we can't fortify our way to safety for our kids. It's like a pyramid, all the health and well-being, connection, mental health, depression, bullying. That's the stuff that I think that when you say, what can we do better? I think that's the next step for the district, as far as making sure our kids feel safe so that they can focus on learning.
Thank you. Josie, same question.
Yeah. Academic achievement, mental health and safety, and community and trust. So specifically, academic achievement of all students. We need to ensure the students who need the most support continue to receive it, but we also at the same time need to challenge the top and the middle of the class. Mental health and safety. Quite simply, if our kids don't feel well or feel safe, they're not going to be good learners. TCAPS has taken many steps over the past 3 years. but these efforts need ongoing attention and sustained funding from Lansing. And third, in terms of community and trust, again, TCAPS has made a lot of progress over the last 4 years, but this is another area that needs ongoing attention. Personally, with my professional background, working in the public interest, I remain committed to community engagement, fiscal responsibility, and good governance.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Ty. Do you foresee AI as a problem in the district?
No, I do not see AI as a problem for the district. I see it as an opportunity. I see my senior using it to study. He uses it as a tutor to learn. I think we have to be our eyes wide open. It's going to transform education, and I think we need to really stay on top of that and really keep our eyes wide open that it is not a threat.
Josie? AI?
Yes, ma'am. I think there are positives and negatives. I mean, the world is talking about AI. It is on top of everybody's minds. We as a board have been talking over the last year about the need for a policy. So we will be looking at that more closely in the near future with assistance from our law firm. But I do think it presents positive opportunities, like Mr. Schmidt mentioned, but I also think that it does pose some dangers. I do see some students in the room who are probably in an AP Government and Politics class. I can see how they look forward to certain opportunities, but look, we also have to have genuineness, authenticity in our work, and the teachers are going to be looking for guardrails. I can tell you that right now. They want to make sure that we have guardrails in place so that kids aren't cheating. That's a big danger. Thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, and I think threat's a harsh word because obviously there's a lot of challenges that come with AI, such as cheating. And I mean, we're just seeing a myriad of challenges every day. I mean, the way it's growing is quite substantial, which does come down to the opportunity. And I start to think of it as well of the opportunity. I see how my kids learn now in college as well. It's shocking how they can even transcribe and learn in different ways. So you can take the same material and tailor it to different learning styles, which kind of opened my eyes up recently to some of the opportunities. And even from a district level, I think there's a lot of opportunities on the financial side and just running a very complicated school district. You know, government's not always known for being the most progressive in such technologies, and hopefully we can keep us going in a good direction where we can benefit from operationally as well.
Thank you. Next question, Josie, we will start with you, is what is the role of a school library, and along with that, what is your stance regarding banned books in the school library?
I knew this question was coming. It's been a really hot topic the last few years. You know, I have to defer to librarians and the education that they receive. I have a BA in economics, just like an attorney or a doctor or any field with an advanced degree. I've got to defer to those who are educators. They also know what kids are interested in, what kids are dealing with far more than I do, even as a parent and a trustee myself. So, you know, I defer to their expertise. Now, when it comes to books, we have a process in TCAPS where any member of the community can challenge a book that is in our libraries. And there will be a review committee that will be comprised of librarians, parents, administrators, and so on, and they will determine whether the content is appropriate for our libraries. And I believe that's working well. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, it's, again, from a school board point of view, I don't think you want a bunch of people who don't have necessarily the skills to make such decisions, making those decisions. So it should lie within the district. That said, we hear it plenty and we get plenty of comments about it. And I think one thing we want to make sure is that there's no bias and we really focus on critical thinking. So there is options for all thought processes is one thing that I would always push. But other than that, I really don't think government should be censoring unless there's an extreme need to do so. I just don't want government involved in selecting what books I can read.
Thank you. Ty?
I think libraries are often anchors of schools. It's how I got involved and my wife got involved as parents, helping put books away at Eastern Elementary. I know at West Middle, they have a a library lounge mentorship program where kids can go and feel safe. I know Larissa Vanderzee and Jen Miner at the high schools are amazing, intelligent people who also, that's a safe place for kids to go, to be quiet, to calm down when things aren't going well. So, love our libraries, like this one.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Scott. Says, I have recently moved to Traverse City with my middle school student who most probably will not be college bound. What high school programs does the district offer for the vocational education, like auto shop or woodworking?
Yeah, and so this is an area that is coming more and more because I was previously on the Michigan Economic Development Corp for 8 years. And when I first started, it was college. That's what we talked about. And I did go to college, but most of my family did not. And they went through different paths. So I'm a big believer in finding what you're good at. And you don't need to go to college to make a lot of money. I mean, there's always industries for everyone, whether it be truck driving or just the skilled trades is a huge area. So I think we need to really work on getting people into whatever they're going to be successful at and stop putting these artificial labels on what they should be doing. So we do have one of the big programs that we have in the district that is actually from the ISD is CTC, and that is the Career Tech Center. It's a phenomenal, it has health science, it has all sorts of different programs as well. So that's one of the big areas.
Thank you. Ty?
I love this question, Gene. I'd be pumped for this middle schooler moving to Traverse City because my son found trades, and it started in middle school, art classes, working with his hands. He's now enrolled at CTC in their aviation mechanics program, his second year there, and because he wasn't college bound, my older one was. My younger one isn't, and I love that relationship that TCAPS has with North Ed Services, and that there is a path for all of our kids. So it's great.
Thank you. Josie?
Yeah, I have to add that we are really blessed in the state of Michigan with our intermediate school districts, and in our case, North Ed here, to offer this kind of programming to our high school students. So the way it works is in your sophomore year of high school, you will get to tour the Career Tech Center, CTC, and see the 40-some programs that they have to offer. It is everything from agriculture to film, creative writing, electrical line workers. There's an engineering academy there. There are so many opportunities to really explore a program in depth. And I've heard of students who come out of there and they make $100,000 as an electrical line worker, for example. So great opportunity, and their engineering academy is also extremely impressive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Ty, we will start with you. Bullying in schools is an age-old problem. What can the board do to assist staff in dealing with this ugly behavior?
Another good question, Gene. Fortunately, if you take a look at the strategic plan, there is a whole focus area on bullying with several objectives, strategies that the board is helping to support the buildings with that. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that type of support for principals to make sure like there is a culture of connection that the students are clear about what's acceptable and what isn't, and that there's a clear way for kids to report things. Like OK to Say is a perfect example of that. So I'm happy that the board has a specific focus area and objection with bullying.
Thank you. Josie?
Yeah, so TCAPS has a no tolerance policy for bullying, in short. Funny enough, just 3 months into Scott Newman Bales and my term, we looked at revising our bullying policy, our anti-bullying policy, to be more precise. And we actually went in the opposite direction of what the law firm recommended. We tightened it to make the procedures clearer and to ensure that the teachers and administrators know exactly what procedures to follow in notifying both alleged bully and alleged victims. That information has subsequently been posted very prominently on our home website, and the OK to Say program, that's a 24/7 Michigan statewide program, texting, phone call. But I think like our cell phone policy too, it's related, you know, just taking the social media out of the classroom and getting kids to focus on engagement and learning, that's another way to
Thank you.
minimize bullying. Thank you.
Scott?
Yes, I'm sorry. As Josie said, we had done a lot of work as a board on policy, and that we do want to encourage everyone to speak up. We're not we have those numbers. We look at those numbers. We're trying to track, and to be honest, they're going to look a little worse at first because we are encouraging people to speak up. We've got to break the stigma of saying something. So that was one of the big things, and we know that this is one of the most critical things that we have, because when we talk about school safety, which is one of everyone's number one concerns, this is directly tied to that. So you'll find most school shooters, bullying's involved, there's a disengaged student, and we need to make sure that we identify them. So it is a critical thing for us to do.
Next question goes to Josie. First, what limit should be set on smartphones and other devices, and at what grade levels?
Okay, well, that's really on point with the cell phone policy that we revised last year. So in the summer of 2023, in time before last year, school year, we basically set a policy that there are to be no cell phones in classrooms in high school, and no phones in the school buildings at all whatsoever from K through 8. If it's seen, it's taken away. It's done respectfully, but it's taken to the office, parents are notified, and they can come pick it up at the end of the school day. So high school students, it's a little bit different because they have jobs after school, they have younger siblings to take care of, they have sports after school with coaches texting them all the time. So they are allowed 4 minutes between classes called passing time to use their phones, and also during their lunch hour. But that's it. And I can tell you in June, the teachers, the administrators came to us to report out on the effectiveness of this policy, and it was a resounding success. Just all around, slam dunk. Some of them even
Thank
said,
you.
best board decision ever.
Well, I was just going to continue on since a lot of my response was already covered as well. But as Josie said, when we dealt with the issue, there had been a few districts, but there wasn't a lot of precedents to look at. There was some, but everyone had kind of gone in a very extreme direction. What we were hearing was it's very hard to implement and maintain. So the first thing we did was said we didn't want to have a policy that isn't realistic. And that's where we started asking the questions. And with the high school, we realized that there's so much legitimate need for a phone that could be could create issues. So we did devise a different policy for the different age groups. And I think it has done phenomenally well. I've heard from my own kids, I mean, most of the time it's accepted. It doesn't seem to be causing a massive uproar even within the students. And I think it creates a much better learning environment. And we did see that it was so many incidents in classrooms that we had that have gone down that were distracting us from learning. So I know that our policy is doing well. And Josie, okay. I was going to say, Josie is presenting, I believe, at the MASB conference on our policy because it has gone over so well.
Thank you. Ty?
Yeah, I mean, full support. I think thank you to Scott and Josie for supporting. It was a no-brainer. There's tons of science. So the K-8 band's awesome. And even in high school, I subbed at Central last winter for a month, and it was really reassuring to see I would come in at lunch and everybody's talking to each other, they're playing, they're not zombies on their phone. So, I mean, we're trying to raise adults to manage, just like I'm 48 years old and I still have to manage my phone and put my phone away to have human connection. So I think helping these kids learn that, I think was a really good move. And you know, when they come into the room, they put them in the sleeves and it's like no big deal. So great policy.
On to a different subject here, and we'll start with Scott. How is the district providing for those students facing housing insecurity?
Yeah, so we have a student support network within TCAPS, which is there to provide critical needs to everyday living, and we're talking toothbrush, clothes, even tents to live in. And so when we talk about that, I think last year we had 63 unattended use. That is 63 kids who don't have a parent to go to or a place to go. So 63 homeless and unattended. So we do have a lot of work to do in that area, but we do have some federal support with McKinney-Vento that we do use. And we are doing a lot in the student support network, and I'll take up my entire time to plug that. We raise funds. Any money I ever could get to, I put into that group. They do phenomenal work on such a minimal budget. You would never know, but please do look it up and look what they do.
Thank you. Ty?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Student Support Network is doing an amazing job helping with not just housing, but clothing, personal hygiene, food. Sometimes we forget here in Traverse City, which is a very wealthy community, that TCAPS is a very large district with poverty is real. Garfield Township, highest poverty rates in the area, the highest increasing poverty rates in the area as well. And so I'm grateful for Katie and the team at Student Support Network to make sure that these kids' basic needs are taken care of so they can come to school ready to learn.
Thank you. Josie?
Yeah, I think Ty and Scott have both made excellent points, so I won't be redundant, but I will point out that the statistics we heard last year were staggering in that TCAPS had twice the state average of students who are experiencing homelessness. It was actually 4% of our student body. So out of 8,000 some kids, you can do the math, and that was double what the rest of the state averages. So we really do have a need here, and I would say related to that, more than a third of our students come from low-income families. And there are 2 elementary schools where that number is in double digits. It's about 67%. So we do have staggering inequities in this district. It's not all living on Wayne Hill and overlooking the bay.
Thank you. Ty, we'll start this next question with you. How can the schools provide education and support about mental health?
Well, this is the reason I came on TCAPS as their district wellness coordinator with a grant from Rotary Charities. And I will say TCAPS has done a phenomenal job of supporting the well-being of our kids. I'll just list a few things. The Student Health Center at West Middle, we have social workers in every building. We started a peer-to-peer program at Central High School. Kids are more often to come to their peers than they are well-meaning adults. We have phenomenal social emotional learning programs at K-5 and middle school. We hired a whole child systems director to help coordinate well-being and health, and it is one of my priorities. We did start a mentorship program with communities, regardless if they had kids or grandkids in the school, to come in and mentor. It is something that is important to me as far as connection and well-being, and I hope it's something that we continue to do.
Thank you. Josie?
Yeah, Ty was very well versed in TCAP's efforts, and again, I won't repeat what he said, but I do want to highlight that in addition to those things, the Big Brothers, Big Sisters are in many of our buildings, and you even have high school students who are going to elementary schools to mentor younger kids. That's a very effective program that's reaching a lot of people. I don't think we could be prouder of having our own TCAPS health facility that treats all of our students district-wide, both physically and mentally. But I will just say, because this is a budget challenge going forward, by the grace of God, on the last legislative day of this calendar year, there was a supplemental budget that was passed to give all Michigan schools safety and security and mental health funding, which we sorely need to sustain in order to keep these efforts going. And we're going to just have to keep fighting that here on out.
Scott?
Yeah, and prior to COVID, and certainly when I was younger, obviously you didn't talk about your mental health. It was not something you did. And then obviously with COVID, I think we started worrying about the kids first and their mental health. But then I think we all realized that we've all got challenges. And so we started becoming open and talking about it. That was the first step. But the problem that created in itself is the level of mental health needs in this country, not just for our kids, is extreme. And we've spent years forcing retirements of social workers out of schools. And now we're trying to come back the other way. So yes, we've got a budgetary challenge, but I can tell you right now, even if we had all the funds I could ever want, I don't know if we could hire skilled professionals to do it. So we need to start focusing on developing them. We are the schools, develop them there too.
Thank you. Well, here's a question next that has been sent in from the audience. What support is provided for students who excel at academics and want challenges?
Is it
Josie?
Yeah, great question. So I mentioned earlier supporting students at where they are and building the academic achievement for all students. For starters, all of our elementary teachers differentiate, so they know they've got kids who are below proficiency, at proficiency, and above proficiency. So, that is a tactic that TCAPS uses to reach people where they are. In addition, when a child is in third grade, they can test into our Talented and Gifted program, also known as TAG, for fourth and fifth graders. And I see a couple boys in the audience who attended, and a girl who attended that program. It's excellent. It fast tracks kids 3 years of math into 2 and accelerates their reading and writing as well. Then we have honors in middle school and honors as well as numerous advanced placement offerings in high school, which not only is more satisfying perhaps academically, but saves families thousands of dollars when it comes to college.
Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, and not to be repetitive, certainly focusing on that APE piece, TCAPS has one of the largest AP programs. It's just staggering how many different areas you can place or take courses in. And we just had a presentation at the last board meeting, and it was shocking to me as a parent who just had a kid go to college. They did take an AP and pass that, and that alone just saved thousands and thousands of dollars on college education. So there is a really good focus that we should be, those who are able should be looking at AP classes. We also have fortunate to have Northwestern Michigan College right here as well, right by our central campus. So there's a lot of programs that we can do to expand what we can offer in our high school within MC as well. So I think we are also, to Ty's point, we have to focus on everyone. So it's more about not just the high performance, but it's bringing everyone up to their maximum potential as well.
Thank you. Ty?
I think they covered all of it. I was trying to, hopefully you didn't mention dual enrollment, but I think they all got it.
Okay, do you think teachers should be required to post their lesson plans and materials for parental review? Why or why not? And we start with Scott on this one.
So part of our plan has been to have all material online as well. The sheer breadth of what that means is quite significant, so it's a multi-year plan. And I don't think there's a problem for any parent to review what is being offered in the classroom. So I think what we do need to get away from is nitpicking any little detail that happens in the classroom, because we want to see, and I don't care about ideology here, whatever your thought beliefs are, we need to create critical thinkers. And the only way you create critical thinkers is to look at both sides of an argument and teach kids how to dissect that information for themselves and come up with their own opinion. So I don't think there's a problem having it in being posted, but we certainly have to be careful about what we're trying to encourage.
Thank you. Ty?
I think we do a great job of being very transparent with the curriculum. You can go online and click through all the curriculum and read everything you want to about it. It's very extensive, and I will defer to educators. They're the experts in curriculum. I would love to be involved, to ask questions and have conversations early in the process about curriculum. I do think it's part of the board's role, but I've clicked through all those links, and there's a lot to read online.
Okay.
Okay.
Josie?
Yeah, I would say in general, our current superintendent, Dr. Van Wagner, who joined us 4 years ago, this was one of his high priorities, to post the lesson plans district-wide and to reach parity for East and West, to make sure what a student is learning at West Middle School is the same as what they're learning at East Middle School. So there's a lot more information and transparency on our website than I have hours in a day to mine through myself as a parent, but it is there for anybody to dig through. Furthermore, this kind of reminds me of the library books issue earlier, but I want to also say that in terms of sex education, annually there is a committee that's made of community members, and they make recommendations to add to the curriculum. Every year they present it to the board. The public has the right to review it, public comment on it, etc. But it subscribes to rigorous Michigan state standards for that.
Okay. Next question, and we're going to start with Ty for this one. What is your opinion on Louisiana's requirement to post the 10 Commandments in public schools? Louisiana? Anyway, a question from the audience. So anyway, would you support the posting of the tenets of all religions?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not too concerned about what's going on in Louisiana, and I'm going to pass on that question.
All right, that's fine. Thank you. Josie, thoughts on
Yeah,
that
I was
one?
just going to ask you, could you repeat the question?
Sure. What is your opinion of Louisiana's requirement to post the 10 Commandments in public schools? Would you support the posting of the tenets of all religions?
So, look, if the Michigan legislature passes a law and Governor Whitmer signs it into law, that's the law. We abide by it. That plain and simple. I will just say, in general, our nation has separated church and state and public schools. So by and large, that's the lay of the land. But a state can always make an exception to that, and we would have to abide by that like any other law. The only other thing I will say is that when I was in high school, I elected to take a class on religion, and it was excellent. And I wish every student could have that opportunity, but that is kind of a luxury as an elective in schools. Thank you.
Scott?
So I believe in separation of church and state because that is the law of the land. If it wasn't, then I personally don't really mind. It doesn't affect me. I think there should be an openness and a willingness. I do not like, again, government. We're already, when you're in the school system, one of the things you'll find out most is every arm of government, federal and state at least, is already dictating so much of what's going on. There's not enough left for us to even do any work locally, even at the state level sometimes. So I do not think government should be telling anyone to do more things that don't have a direct impact on learning.
All right, thank you. Josie, we start with you on the next question. TCAPS has approximately $100 million budget. The board has a crucial role overseeing how these funds are managed with obvious impact to teachers and students. How does your experience apply in financial oversight for the district?
Well, I've only got a minute, but first of all, last year's budget was actually $135 million. And we do have a study session coming up October 27th, I believe, to dig deep into our budget this year, knowing what it looked like for the current year and anticipating similar next year. Personally, I have a BA in economics. I actually was a financial markets reporter early in my life before I joined the Government Accountability Office. And at GAO, basically we always look at things with a lens towards taxpayer savings and enhancing efficiency and effectiveness of government programs. So that's my personal background. I've served on the Finance Committee the last 2 years in TCAPS, and I think we just have to look at basically what funds are potentially able to be reduced, but we don't have much wiggle room because about 85% of our budget is wages and benefits.
Thank you. Scott?
So can I ask you to repeat the question, because there's a couple of different areas I want to
Sure.
cover.
TCAPS has an approximately $100 million budget. The board has a crucial role overseeing how these funds are managed with obvious impact to teachers and students. How does your experience apply in financial oversight for the district?
Okay. So I do have a background in my bachelor's degree is actually in general management, but I'm an economics fanatic, and that's where my background is from. I also do have a master's degree in financial science, as well as an MBA as well. I was also a CFO for Shorts Brewing Company for a number of years. I'm the CEO now, but still directly oversee a lot of the financial stuff, so I know how to read reports, I know how to look for savings. I am a fiscal conservative. I believe in looking at everything and trying to do it the best way possible for the least amount, while making funds available for things like teacher salaries that we haven't been able to see. We have been able to give raises, but I think they're always far behind. So there's a lot of experience that I have. One of the things as well from the board level that I was particularly proud of is when we came, I wasn't satisfied with our reserves that we had on hand, so we managed to push that up over the last 3 years.
Thank you. Ty?
I have no finance experience, but it is a very important role of a board member, and $135 million budget is huge for us. I mean, way bigger than the college, way bigger than the county, way bigger than the city. And what I intend to bring is governance of curiosity, of inquiry, to making sure that when we talk about mission-based budgeting, are we allocating all of the dollars to the things that we say we care about, our values, our mission, our vision, our strategic objectives with education. And I'll just say the way that we're designed to approve budgets before we even know what's going on in legislators puts these guys and hopefully me in a pickle. And it's not easy. So thank you to Scott and Josie, like the hearing on June 10th, asking questions, even though you're between a rock and a hard place, approving budgets by July 1. So.
Thank you. All right, next question. It starts with Scott. It's why don't freshmen and sophomores get to do CTC? I think that's from a student. The handwriting looks like my sons used to.
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of parts to CTC. I'm actually more familiar with CTC in the past year than I was on my first 3 years, so there's probably a lot still to learn. But generally speaking, when you're going to CTC, there's a lot of variables when you're going from a middle school environment to a high school environment to begin with. It's a larger school, much larger school. You're much more on your own to figure out your own life's path at that point. When you get to the end of that, you're 18 and you can, sometimes a little older, you can do a lot of things. So we have to have a preparation in steps. So CTC is definitely, you've got to learn how to do the socialization and the development first before selecting what you have to get in the mindset of learning what you want to do first. So that's why there's a delay. I do not know if there's a lot more reasons why it's 1-2 years versus, just could be a little earlier. I don't know.
Thank you, Scott. Ty?
I also don't know, but I will find out because it is a good question. Like, what is the path for freshmen, sophomores when they come from middle school to our secondary buildings? What is the path for, say, those kids? They should have a path. So I'm going to find out, and whoever asks that, I'll provide an answer then.
Josie?
Okay, so I think it really has to do with graduation requirements. Our kids have to adhere to Michigan merit standards to graduate with 21 credits. So you need your basic foundation in English language arts, in math, in social studies, and in science. So you've got to get 2 years under your belt as a freshman and a sophomore in high school. And even when you go to CTC, if you choose that path, you're still spending nearly half your school day at your home high school. It's not a complete day at the CTC. So Central High School will be there, part of the morning, and West Senior High, I think it's actually the other way around. West is in there in the morning, then they get bused back or self-transport back to West Senior High, and it's the opposite for Central High School. So they're still fulfilling those credits.
Thank you. Okay, another question here. Are the gifted and talented embedded with other kids in classes so that the students are able to glean the best from each other? Start with Ty.
I don't believe so, but I'm glad to be corrected. But my older son did tag at Central Grade School, and I believe he was just with the tag kids.
Josie?
Yep, so I am a former tag parent, and they are currently housed at Central Grade School, 4th and 5th grade. They have their own classrooms, but they are integrated with the rest of the school for lunchtime, playground time, etc.
Scott?
I think it's Josie and Ty have covered it.
Okay, another question here is our local Native American history taught in our schools? Josie?
In short, yes. Michigan has a curriculum on Native American studies, which TCAPS is using, and actually this year, for the first time, we are going to make Columbus Day / Indigenous Peoples Day a day of learning. It's a half day for students, but it's going to be focused on that education. We're doing the same thing with Martin Luther King Day come January. That used to be a day off for students, and you might remember 30 years ago, that was the conventional wisdom that we should honor Dr. Martin Luther King by having a day off, but now there's a national movement in the other direction to have it be a day on. So that's how TCAPS has chosen to handle both of these holidays. And on an ongoing basis, we do have an Indigenous student education program.
Thank you. Scott?
Josie has pretty much covered it again, but we do have, that is also coming up for review, I think, either this year or next. There's going to be some talk in curriculum and probably at the board level as well about that, so stay tuned.
And I'll just comment that the TCAPS Indigenous program does have a Facebook page, and they post a lot to it, which is great. And I don't know if Summer Baldwin is still there, but she was the coordinator for the Indigenous program, and she was phenomenal. She'd come to a lot of the district meetings to provide that perspective. So I think it's an important part of our district.
Thank you. Next question, we will start with Scott. Early learning is the foundation for school success. What does TCAPS do to support 3 to 5-year-old learning?
We obviously know that when you're younger, you can absorb a lot more information very quickly. And so we have had the Great Start Readiness Program in our district, which has been expanded recently. And that has hopefully, to be honest, wasn't as well attended as I had hoped, but hopefully it will be. That's been a focus as well with the governor of making sure that we have preschool education and young education as well. So we do have a full offering, but I think it is really critical that parents start to take advantage of it. We do also we've been working on trying to make sure that there's areas for childcare earlier on so they can take advantage of that as well.
Thank you. Ty?
Yeah, critical, especially when we talk about student achievement equity starts before they even get into kindergarten. So our junior kindergarten program is important. Also, our community partnerships. We have great partnerships with, here's a plug for my Sunrise Rotary Club, a Born to Read program where we do provide books to 3, 4, 5-year-olds because having books in the house is important. And we might think that all kids have books in the house, but they do not. So I'll also look around this library as a solution to early childhood readiness, and I think TCAPS has an important role to play at being a good community partner.
Thank you. Josie?
Yeah, I don't have much to add because I think Scott and Ty have covered it well, but just want to acknowledge that many of our TCAPS elementary schools do have young learners programs. It's called Young Fives now. Used to be called, Young Fives is now called Junior Kindergarten. And in Governor Whitmer's latest budget, there will be free education for all 4-year-olds statewide. But we do have 3 to 5-year-old programs in many of our elementary schools.
Okay, Ty, we're going to start this next question with you. Is there more the TCAPS board could do to support our teachers and staff?
Well, I will say there's always room for improvement and always room to do better. Working for the district for 2.5 years gave me hope in our community and public education because I got to hang out with our amazing educators. And I hope we as elected officials for the district can do all we can to make sure our teachers have everything they need to help our kids succeed.
Thank you. Josie?
Yeah, of course, there's always more that we can do to support our teachers and staff. In my conversations with teachers, they're not looking for more money. Sure, that would be nice, but they understand the budget constraints that we have. Even if we get an annual increase of 4% from the state with our per pupil foundation allowance, that doesn't translate into 4% increase in teachers' salaries. Benefits like retirement systems and healthcare, as you all know, those things are far outpacing inflation. So beyond salaries and benefits, I think what really could matter to our teachers in a positive way would be giving them more training, more professional development that's really tailored specifically to what they need for their particular subject matter, rather than a one-size-fits-all, everybody's taking the same training for 4 days. If you are a reading teacher, you want something for literacy. If you're a math teacher, similar. The list goes on and on. I also think that time for planning is important for teachers.
Scott?
So I'll just build on what Josie was saying, because I certainly agree with everything there. And I would add that in my discussions with teachers, most of the time we've had issues as being through communication for whatever reason. And so I think that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to run again for another 4 years, because that is an area that I like to put focus on. But the first 4 years wasn't ideal with COVID and a few other things that we had to deal with. But the real hope for me in the next 4 years is we can create a system where everyone's on the same team, because you don't actually see that quite often in a school district. Usually you've got administration and you've got the principals and you've got teachers, and they're very divided. And we want to try and make sure to be ultimately successful for a sustainable period of time, no matter the superintendent, no matter the board, we've got to have good communication and good trust with each other. So that's what I think they probably want more than anything, but obviously money is always nice too.
Okay, next question, Josie. We'll start with you. Is there help for transgender students?
Okay, so I don't know if what the questioner might be looking for specifically, but we do have a Gay and Straight Alliance Club at West Middle School, and I believe at the high school level as well. And I'm sure at East Middle School and Central there are similar programs. Beyond that, I think just, they fall under the umbrella of anybody who needs any kind of assistance, whether it be mental health or student support network. Beyond that, TCAPS has to abide by all federal and state laws. So students are allowed to identify with a gender, and that is honored. Full stop.
Thank you. Scott?
I think it was covered quite extensively in discussions in the harassment and bullying, as well as when we had the health clinic as well. Not that that was really to do with that, but to give everyone an outlet for mental health as well, because it's an area of our population that has a lot of challenges, regardless of what you think on the issue. That there's things that they need help with. So I don't think that there's necessarily a large list of things, but we are very aware with the having a safe space to go with the bullying and harassment policy, and just trying to give any guidance to where they can go for help rather than within the school itself. So,
Thank you. Ty?
I don't know the answer, Gene, if we do support transgender kids. I sincerely hope we do, just like we support all of our kids.
Thank you. Next question. What is something TCAPS is doing that they should stop doing, or vice versa, something they should start? That's I only read what the card says, so I'm
I
not
love the
read-
question.
I can start with you, Scott, but I can read it again if you would like.
why don't you read it again? Give me a second more for that one. So,
What is something TCAPS is doing that they should stop doing, or vice versa? I guess I'll add into this something that they should start doing that they are not doing. I think that's what the last of it.
okay. I think a lot of the challenge of me answering the question is I think we did stop doing certain things and start doing other things, and everything that is most logical we're already working on. So, for instance, strategic planning did not have a strategic plan when we came. Like it's not like it's not like we're going to be changing it and doing all sorts of crazy things, but we need to have at least a conversation as a district with all involved parties, public, teachers, administrators, board, superintendent, of just what are our expectations? What are we trying to achieve? So we're all on the same page. It's not about the end document always, and that is a 3-year cycle. We're going to do that every 3 years. So the next cycle is actually next year. So we're redoing our strategic plan again next year. So there's things like that that were not in place at a basic business level, and
that's what I really want to focus on again, just trying to make sure we're sustainable as well as a district.
I'd like to start talking about our declining enrollment. I mean, I know it gets mentioned, but we are down 1,100 kids since 2018. We've had 6 consecutive years of losing kids. When we lose kids as a community, we're in trouble. I'd also like to start talking more about student achievement equity. The next time the strategic plan comes around, I'd love a specific goal, how we're closing the gap between our low achievers and our high achievers, and maybe something to stop doing. And this is no critique of my incumbent friends here, but I would think to stop putting buildings for sale before we're really clear about what it is that we want out of that building sale. We've been trying to sell Bertha Voss for over 2 years now.
Thank you. Josie?
The only thing I would add here is really embracing a mindset of continuous improvement. I think that we've made great strides over the last 4 years as a governance team, that being the 7-member Board of Education and the superintendent. But I think that there's just still room for more of that mindset. And what that means is just continuously evaluating the effectiveness and the efficiency of things. So if you've got, 5 different committees that are all related to health, well-being, mental wellness, maybe take a hard look at consolidating those. Meetings take a lot of people's time, and there can be duplication of effort, which is just not the way to run an efficient organization. I just want to point out we've developed something over the last few years called the Portrait of a Graduate, which says, among other things, we want our students to be critical thinkers. We want them to embrace teamwork and so on. We need to look at that as adults and be that model for them.
Thank you. Ty, this question goes to you first. And there's 2 questions here that kind of go together, so I'm going to throw them together. Are there any books or types of books you would like to see removed or kept out of public schools? And the next card said, should books addressing homosexuality be taken out of school library shelves? So
I think we've already covered this, Jean.
okay, I'm just asking the questions as they come. Josie, any thoughts on that?
The only thing I'll say is that the world has really changed, even since I grew up 40 years ago. There were certain words that were just so mainstream and common in public schools, private schools for that matter, that are not acceptable anymore. The world has moved on. We have learned to have neighbors, friends, family members who are gay, now increasingly transgender. And the world will continue to evolve. We've got to embrace those issues. It's like I'm left-handed. 10% of the population is left-handed. It's not strange. It's just a fact of human life. So, not in favor of book banning, but I do think age-appropriate material is the name of the game.
Scott, any thoughts on that?
No, again, I just don't. I think it's a dangerous line to place of where that line is on each side of what should and should not be banned. So again, I would like to keep government out of censorship as much as possible.
Thank you. Okay, we have one last fun question here before we go into our closing remarks. You've answered now 20 questions, so anyway, let's see. I need to start with, who wants to start on this? Let's put it up for grabs.
Depends on what the question is.
Okay, well, Josie, we're going to start with you. Should the lunch break be longer, shorter, or stay the same?
That's a great question. I actually would be in favor of surveying students. If the administration has reason to believe that we are not giving students sufficient time to eat their lunch. I will just say, too, related to that, every now and then we do hear about studies that talk about the starting time for students' days. And I know that there have been districts across America that have experimented with later start times. I know there are repercussions for that, but that too might be something that the administration should take a look at and make a recommendation to the board.
Scott?
I would just add one of the challenges about being on the board is you can take something as simple as how long is lunch and start talking about it, and then it becomes a hilariously complicated and in-depth subject because every minute of the day, and I'm talking about, I mean, that's why sometimes you have bells at like 12:12. It's like every minute of the day has to be accounted for in a particular way. So you add 1 minute to lunch, you're probably adding 1 minute to the end of the day, or taking out somewhere else if you're taking away. There's mandatory times you have to be in the building as well. So there's just a lot that goes into every decision. So it's kind of a good one to end with, because every little decision is actually quite complicated in a government entity.
Thank you. Ty?
Our elementary kids get 20 minutes to eat, and so I eat lunch with my little at Traverse Heights, and you have to be focused, like even me, because I eat the cafeteria food, and it's called, and the nutrition team talked about this all the time, and free meals has changed it, right? So now there's free meals for all, but I have to pay attention to be able to eat enough, and when our bellies are full, we're better learners. I think our noon duty staff do a good job of keeping kids because they want to socialize, they want to have a good time. But to Scott's point, as soon as you start talking about it, you realize there are many, many rules related to it. The other policy is about recess before lunch. So if anybody's curious, the nutrition team, we have some phenomenal experts on this, but a lot of the science is based on nutrition, and the game changer is the free meals for all, which is a very, very positive thing for our district.
Thank you. All right, we will now begin with closing statements. You each have 2 minutes to tell us why we should vote for you. So we go reverse alphabetical order. So we start with Ty.
Why you should vote for me? Well, I think you should vote for me if you care that all of our kids have the same chance to succeed. I am not here to save or rescue anybody, but I promise to ask questions and lead with a spirit of inquiry and curiosity and vote my conscience. I have no problem voting no on things that I don't feel I can support. So if you believe in closing the student achievement gap, if you believe in health, well-being, connection, and student support, if you believe in community engagement and storytelling, and if you believe in better transparency and accountability, I would love your vote before November 5th.
Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, I bring a little difference to the board in the fact that it is a non-partisan race, but I openly say to the faces of party leaders, I hate both parties. And I think that most of us do. I think that where we've got to as a society is not a good spot, and we need to work better. And I vote both sides of the aisle. And a lot of what I come down to voting for now is, are you going to have a reasonable intellectual conversation with everyone else, all the other stakeholders, and come up with the best solution for the majority of people? And unfortunately, we've lost that in today's politics. But we haven't lost it as a school board. We have diverse, different opinions on our school board, and we've managed to maintain decorum and positive, actually really positive discussions. I've learned a lot from both sides of the aisle, and I think that's what I've hopefully have had a part in as well, is just trying to, let's just talk about it and make the best decision for the kids. It doesn't matter about our personal beliefs, because it really doesn't. And as a school board, we have a lot of decisions to make, but our real ultimate things that we're meant to do is hire a superintendent, talk about budgets and policy, like everything else, and when we're kind of the community liaisons as well. So we shouldn't be getting out of the scope of what we're meant to be doing, and you don't want a school board who does. So hopefully
that's what and I'm excited for all candidates. I wish I could hear from the other people as well, because I genuinely am interested on all views, and I think the diverse views bring a better school district for everyone. So.
Thank you. Josie?
So TCAPS has made a lot of progress on numerous fronts over the past 4 years, and I want to be part of sustaining that positive momentum. We still have more work to do, as you have heard tonight, academic achievement, mental health, safety, security, and budget challenges, among other things. I believe the three most important characteristics of my service personally as a school board member are commitment, courage, and balance. Regarding commitment, I have consistently shown up for the past 4 years. I've been prepared for meetings, and I've put in the level of effort that this office deserves. Regarding courage, I think Scott and Ty can both attest, I am not a rubber stamper, meaning I am comfortable asking the hard questions and challenging the status quo. And it's not a matter of trying to embarrass anybody. It's about digging in for information, which leads to better decision-making. And we owe that to you, the voters. Regarding balance, I take the time to listen to multiple points of view, weighing up the pros and cons of any situation. I consider long-term consequences and solve problems in a constructive manner. I bring a wealth of analytical experience to this job, and I approach my work by considering a wide range of information without a predetermined agenda or outcome. I recognize that in many cases, no one outcome will satisfy all stakeholders, but a carefully considered and balanced approach and communicating with the public our reasons for a given outcome is essential in building consensus and trust. So my campaign motto remains classroom, community, and trust. And if you'd like to hear more about me and my priorities, my website also remains www.josieballinger4tcaps.com. Please note the fairly unusual spelling of my first and last name. Thanks again to the LWV and the people for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates. Thank you to the audience. Would you please give the candidates a round of applause? Okay, I will turn it back over to Christina because she has a couple closing remarks.
Thank you, Jean. And thank you to the candidates for your participation tonight. It is important for voters to hear from you, your views, and candidates that do not participate deny their constituents that information. For more information about your voting rights, go to michiganvoting.org or michigan.gov/elections voting. We have handouts for you at the tables near the entrance of the room. Please take some with you. Election day is Tuesday, the 5th of November, and the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Check your clerk's website for your polling location and your early voting location, or go to vote411.org. Early in-person voting starts on Saturday, the 26th of October through the 3rd of November for 8 hours a day, a full 9 days before the election. Absentee ballots should have been mailed on the 26th of September if you have applied. You can register to vote online up until Monday, the 21st of October. After that, you must do it in person. You can register up to 8 p.m. on Election Day, but by then you will have to be at your clerk's office with proof of residency. And don't wait till then. You can track your absentee ballot now at michigan.gov/vote. You can also sign up for email or text notifications. To check what is on your ballot, or go to michigan.gov/vote, or once again, vote411.org. This forum and its recordings are the property of the League of Women Voters of the Grand Traverse area. No portion of this forum may be used for any reason without the express written consent of the League of Women Voters of the Grand Traverse area. LWV GTA offers programs and forums in face-to-face and virtual formats. We will be holding another forum tomorrow right here at the same time, the 8th of October. It will be a pro-con education forum about TIF, tax increment financing, and the charter amendments that are on your ballot. Thank you to TACM and TADL for assisting our community in expanding and strengthening citizen access. We are in the process of distributing the State League of Women Voters printed voter guides in all the counties we cover: Antrim, Benzie, Crawford, Grand Traverse, and Kalkaska counties, plus Roscommon and Otsego this year. Look for them to assist you in becoming an informed voter. If you go to our website, you can use the digital version as well. The League is a national, state, and local nonpartisan organization whose main mission is to empower and inform voters and to defend democracy. Our website is www.lwvgta.org. Thank you to our moderator, Jean Howard, and to the volunteers of the League of Women Voters of the Grand Traverse area that helped with this forum, especially Charlene Krieger, who organized this event. Also, thank you to our ASL interpreter tonight, Leanne Baumler. And good to see students here at the forum tonight. Your vote counts. We have surveys and evaluations that League members are passing out, surveys that will help us provide an even better event. And remember, democracy is not a spectator sport. Get involved and stay involved. Thank you and good night.